to everyone from wherever you are. This is Sundar Visvanathan, an executive leadership coach, mentor, and a professional speaker coming to all of you from Chennai, India. I am happy to be an honorary member of DLC's Global Leadership and Transformation Committee. I reinvented myself early in 2018, and since then I have been into coaching, mentoring, professional speaking, and recently I qualified to be a certified board director. Uh, Prior to that, I have 35 years of professional corporate experience, of which about 11 to 12 years I've been in the C and D level. I have served in the verticals of manufacturing, automotive, management consulting, as well as information and communication technology. Looking forward to this awesome conversation with both Mukul and Pranav.
Thank you, Sundar, and good afternoon, everyone. At least it's good afternoon where I am. And I'm Mukul Deva. I'm also a honorary member of the DLC Leadership and Transformation Committee, the Singapore chapter. So my background is I'm an ex-Indian Army officer. I was an infantry officer for 16 plus years and spent about 10 and a half of them in combat. I quit to set up my first company in India, which is currently based in about 70 cities. And we are a small company, about 1,000 odd people. Then in 2008, I migrated to Singapore and I set up my second company, which is Influence Solutions, which is headquartered in Singapore, but we operate in about 23 countries. I also write books. I've just finished my 21st book, actually, mostly action thrillers. And I'm also an executive coach with several countries. I mostly work at the senior leadership and government level. And I'm a mentor with the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. And I look forward to this conversation with Pranav and Sundar.
I'm Pranav, and I'm also the member of Leadership and Transformation Committee in Bangalore chapter so far. And my journey has been so much into finance and portfolio management so far. Started Plus Capital by dropping out from the college at the age of 16. It was year 2002 and 2002 till 2007, there was a cyclical bull run. We diversified our portfolio, invested into some gold mining funds through a feeder fund, got first national award from CNBC in 2008 when subprime crisis happened in US, the Lehman Brothers crisis. After that, diversified my business in almost 6 cities in India. I went to ISB and Wharton Business School for my MBA, and started another company like Airbnb in Silicon Valley, California. And it was like connecting like-minded people based on common touch points so that we can remove stranger danger. But due to some of the pandemic and some of the other things, like we failed in that particular startup. So again, I'm back and I'm solving a short-term liquidity problem for institutional investors in India through one of my fintech startup called Plus Cash. So the time has been really challenging in last couple of years, and the way we were working, the way we are interacting with the team, and some of those things has changed so far. So I just want to start this whole conversation on the note of that how what are the challenges we have been facing so far while getting our workforce adopted towards digitization?
It's an interesting question. So for me, especially so, because, my Singapore company, we actually went virtual in 2018. This is almost 2 years before the pandemic forced the rest of the world to go virtual. And the reason we adopted that reality is because we believed that that would be the most effective and efficient way of working in a scenario where teams are literally spread out across time zones. We were not really forced to do anything which we were not already doing. And I must say that having lived in this reality for close on 5 years now, everyone in my team is very comfortable with it. We see this as highly effective and cost efficient.
Yeah, I mean, some of my point of view around my digital adoption, where I was interacting a lot of times when face to face in Silicon Valley and over in India, I see it as like different industry operates differently. So if I talk about a lot of FMCG companies where going on the ground, understanding the touch point, understanding some of those things where like, the product is getting sold. And if your workforce has some of those people involved, then that became those are some of the challenges I have faced so far when I was talking to some of my friends' company, though that was not a challenge for me as a financial services or fintech company.
So this has been the most important question in the last few years, and these days in the recent past, and I think it is going to be the topic for the days to come as well. As Mukul was saying, I also started my virtual conversations with respect to coaching and mentoring as well as for speaking in 2019. And 2020, when the pandemic struck, I saw a big surge in terms of online engagements, including a lot of professional speaking assignments, primarily focusing on emotional intelligence, self-leadership, and what can leaders do in these times and things like that. So that's what I have been experiencing. And now when coming to the new normal, I think uncertainty still is the backdrop of this new normal. So having said that, all of us know that we are in this dynamic VUCA world, and what's going to happen now is how the leaders are going to handle the new normal, along with the current topic of today's discussion, digital transformation. So what digitalization has to bring to the table and how they are going to cope up with this. So having said that, I feel that digital transformation has less to do with technology and more to do with people. To set the context with respect to digital transformation, I feel that digital, there are two portions, right? Digital and transformation. So digital is something which is actually technology, right? The tools, the apps, the data, artificial intelligence or Internet of Things, metaverse, visual reality, and there are so many things, right? It all comes under technology. Transformation is actually getting things done or implementing all these things with the view that it takes people along, customers along, and all stakeholders along.
Absolutely right. In fact, Pranav, when the pandemic hit, we spent almost 6 months helping our customers make the transition because we were already there. So for us, it was no challenge, but we saw the challenges for them. And yes, the virtual way of working is very effective, is very efficient. However, there is that loss of socialization which happens, right? And for my India company, the problem was what Pranav had defined it, because it's a very manpower heavy industry and people are required to go to the workplace every single day. So I saw both sides of the equation.
Especially in the innovation, when a fintech company or any kind of a startup is starting a company in Silicon Valley or over here in India, before hitting the product market fit, where like no, they have not still established their product market fit, and they are still iterating, very nimble, very agile kind of organization, trying to see that what is going to work, what is not going to work. And then if they are doing the digitization based on some assumption, then it becomes the challenge. I have seen some of the startups I was advising in Valley as well, and here I have seen some of those things that in the boardroom with 5 folks, when you are deciding on something that, hey, this is the path we should follow, this is how it is going to work, and that's your assumption. You have not validated those assumptions, and you are taking the path, the digitization path, based on that assumptions. And when you hit the road, and then you fail. So some of those challenges I would like to discuss in this forum when you guys are like really experienced, and maybe we can bring our perspective on some of these things, where like how to deal with this when constantly you are innovating new things, and then you have a challenge of getting it digitized?
So, in my view, actually, when this pandemic struck and the last 2 or 2.5 years, most of the leaders have been passing through some kind of a cloud. So that means what the vision is not so clear. But still, they have to lead the business, perform and deliver results. At the same time, there was a big challenge of engaging and managing people remotely or virtually. So this was a challenge. Innovation has been the key because during particularly these 2 years, I think there are companies who have spent a lot of efforts and time on innovation because innovation is actually aligned somewhat to the digital transformation.
So actually, I have a couple of things I wanted to share on this. Firstly, this has been a very interesting time because it kind of leveled the playing field. You see, after a very long time, for the first time, leaders found they were leading team members who were technologically more savvy than them. So we had digital migrant leaders leading digital native team members, people who were born and bred with technology and were very familiar with it. So the second reality which came up is that because everything was so fluid, fast moving and disruptive, no one really knew what the future looked like. So organizations and leaders had to learn to function in shorter spans. So let me amplify that a bit. And this is nothing new for anyone who has been in combat, because in combat also the situation is that you have too much of information, conflicting information, or too little information. And it's coming at you very hard and fast, and you're required to take decisions which can get you killed, get your teams killed. So what you need to do is you start moving in shorter bounds. You take a decision maybe 10 yards ahead, reach there, and then take another decision 10 yards ahead. So in our company, we have something called staying ahead of the curve, which means we teach individuals and organizations how to take decisions as far as you can see, cover that distance, then take the next decision. So you're moving in shorter terms, but you continuously keep moving so that whatever reality emerges, you find yourself in sync with it. Kind of like a geosynchronous satellite. So that's the approach we adopted, and that's the approach we have been imparting our clients to adopt, and we find it's working very well. They move faster, they stay with the curve, and this is probably the best time for organizations to adopt something like what we do, what we call the Everyone a Leader program, where we teach the entire hierarchy to think like leaders. And this is fantastic because once this culture sets in, it reduces a lot of strain on leaders' time and effort.
I'm just adding on to what Mukul just now said. I think these times, as well as the digital transformation, is going ahead with evidence-based approach. So people are trying to use whatever data they have or whatever big data they have and superimpose their expertise and experience to take calculated decisions. So these decisions are, I think, are likely to be more successful because it combines not only the data-based information, but also their expertise and the experience. So what is important in these days for leaders is to be more digitally savvy, as Mukul was saying. And second, also upskill the people around to such a way to use the data in a meaningful way and not to get scared away by data or digital transformation. So at the end of the day, it is a people, it is all about people. So at the end of the day, so we have to address what people's fears are, anxieties are, and sometimes what the leaders go through, the emotional state of the leaders, emotional state of the people. I think that is another dimension which we can talk about if the time permits.
Yeah, of course. Of course, my way to look at some of these things, the way the size of my company and kind of type of company I work with are relatively smaller. And so I see it as a like, how can we quickly fix the unit economics? If it is an organization and the intention is to make money on some units, then like if we can fix the unit economics, if the customer has an appetite to pay pay for that product or services. And the second metrics I see is like so what percentage of people are coming and they are the repeat users for us, and repeat users for those startups. So if they are the repeat users and they have the appetite to pay, and then we see that, oh, what are the digital processes which can support this particular journey, which can speed up this whole process, which will speed up the whole scale and some of those things. So while taking the transformation, digital transformation decisions, if these two things I can fix on, then like things will be much more streamlined, and the chances to make a mistake is going to be much more lesser.
What are the prerequisites the leaders should address or take before venturing into the digital transformation? Because technology is an enabler, right? So what challenges they will face, what opportunities they will see. The opportunities are that maybe they want to drastically shift the way the entire business operates, or maybe they want to focus on customer delight, for example, or maybe they are in a state where they want to scale up operations, so they want digital intervention. So there are so many other ways or the reasons why they want to do digital transformation. What is the vision? What is the purpose of digital transformation? Why we are doing what we are doing, and what is in it for them? And take the people along, understand what they expect out of digital transformation or the digital experience for themselves. This is an inside out approach, as well as take the customers into account with an outside in approach on what the customers want, what value they are expecting from us to add in terms of digital transformation. So like what you are saying, Pranav, the unit cost or the unit price, it all depends upon what value add we can bring incrementally on a day-to-day basis or a periodical basis, right? So one of the most important things here, both for the employees as well as the leaders, is, in my view, is self-awareness. In these times, in these difficult times, when we want to lead others, we have to first lead ourselves. So in my view, this is what is called self-leadership. So that means from the emotional management side, we should be able to acknowledge and recognize what emotions we are going through at a particular moment of time, whether in conversation with our employees or with the customers or any stakeholder for that matter. So these are some of the things, I think, qualities of the leaders who are going through this phase, and I think it is going to stay in the days to come, because the emotional side, emotional intelligence, the emotional quotient of the leader is going to gain an upper hand over IQ.
So it's an interesting point, because the way I look at the first thing which you tabled, Sundar, this is probably a fantastic time in history. And the reason I say that, okay, let me just share with you a story, just to bring out the point. The other day I was giving a keynote, and one of the other speakers was the chief technology officer of a bank, a very major bank. When I was chatting with her off stage, I found out that she was a generalist banker, not a technology professional. So I asked her, I said, hey, that must have been very challenging for you to take on the CTO role, right? She said, I thought it would be, but it turned out to be my biggest strength, because I don't know what technology can do and how it does it, but I know what my customer wants. So I would come back and tell the technology people that, guys, make this happen. And 6 months later, they would tell me, boss, you have no idea how many hoops we had to jump through to make it happen, but we made it happen. And the reason I'm sharing this story, right, because there are two ways to function. One is to focus on what's possible, and one is to focus on what's desirable. This moment in history is probably the best time, with a level playing field, with technology which can do literally what you want it to do. Okay, this is probably the best time in human history for us to focus on what's desirable. And that can short circuit many curves, the customer expectations, employee expectations, things like that. Every leader, transformation, digital, no transformation, in every point, every leader is required to to find and hold three balances: the balance between life and work. And by the way, this is interesting because after the pandemic hit, right? So we must remember that at least for those who are operating in the first world, this is the first time in about 100 years that the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs were so brutally hit. So it destabilized society tremendously, and especially in the first world, because here everyone takes it for granted. So when this happened, right, I found the conversation shifting from work-life balance to life-work balance. All of a sudden, people realized that, dude, work never ends, life does. Right? So it was fascinating because the first balance is life and work. The second balance is very interesting because it's job and career. 90% of leaders I work with are too invested in the job and not sufficiently invested in their own careers. And by the way, when I mean careers, I'm also referring to personal learning and development, because without that, there is no fun in working. There is definitely no future in leadership if you don't have that learning mindset. And the third balance you're always seeking to maintain is the needs and aspirations of the people you lead and the demands which the organization you serve has placed on you. So every leader is trying to balance these three things constantly. It's just become more accentuated as the speed of disruption increased.
Yeah, that's a great point. I faced some of the challenges which I want to highlight here is the internal friction versus the external friction. Then, like when you are dealing with the organization and internally how you are connecting with some of your people, the technology, design, innovation, go-to-market strategy, and some of those things. And at the same time, you are just trying to reduce the friction in the customer journey when they are buying your product. So as a leader, what will become your priority, that to how to deal with internal frictions and some of the external frictions? So that's still I'm working on it, and happy to have some of the point of view around some of these things. So this is one of the thing. And at the top management, what I have realized that narrowing down the theme has a great advantage, because if you have so many people in this pandemic era, or like when people are remotely working in one team or one particular subject area where your organization is dealing with, whether it's operations or sales or business development or marketing or finance or GTM, strategy, growth, acquisition, and anything. But the lesser the number of people, the better the decision making happens at the top level. And then you have a lot of executors at the ground, which are just executing the stuff. Because what I have seen the most of the time pre-pandemic is like, one thing I observed while working with all these industry in last 20 years, the desire to convince is the greatest sign of fraudulence. I mean, if someone is convincing something to you and then you are trying to come on the same page, rather a leader should spend time on just selecting someone where they are not just going to shaken up in any situation, in any particular circumstances, and they know their stuff, and you are relying as a CEO on that person to execute or drive that part of your company.
Pranav, actually, you raised a very important point, right? When someone is trying to convince you. Now, this actually happens because of our inverse and convoluted view of conversations, right? There are three levels of conversation. And the third level is when you are seeking to co-create a future, a reality, or a solution. Now, the funny thing is that 9 out of 10 individuals and organizations are operating either at level 1, which is communicating their point of view, or level 2, which is justifying their point of view. And neither of these take you very far. So the trick is for not just leaders, all of us, and not just in our personal life, professional lives, in our personal lives also, to learn the art of elevating our conversations so that we are co-creating a new reality or a new solution or a new future with the person we are talking to. Till we learn to do this, till we learn to walk away from the traditional view of a good conversationalist is someone who can convince others, we will struggle with this reality.
For any transformation, particularly here we are talking about digital transformation and the challenges. For any transformation to be successful, I think it is important for us to allow people to ask questions, ask clarifications, or seek clarifications. And the leaders have the responsibility to answer those questions. Sometimes yeah, speaking is silver and silence is golden. So this is what I used to tell some of my clients who are actually leaders in organizations, to experiment with a change in their approach of dealing with people and having conversations. So where you listen intently, you being present in the moment, listen to what people are saying, and then ask a few questions so that they themselves come out with their answers. The beauty of this is that they own their answers and they hold themselves accountable for going ahead with that solution or answers which they have got.
Oh, that is a very good point in our life and with our company. Is sometimes decisions are not very easy to take, and there are not enough data to support that, so that you go with the data and what data is indicating you to go around. In those kind of difficult situation, and especially, of course, definitely it applies to digital transformation as well, where then you have to take the decision, what are the other things we are focusing, or especially Mukul and Sundar, I want to know that kind of what are the other things other than data one can, or leaders can focus on while probably in the decision-making process.
See, data is there, or we will make data available, right? So then it is data-informed decisions. So that means when I say it is not data-driven in my view, it is data-informed decisions. So that means data tells us some information. So as I was saying earlier, you superimpose your expertise and experience to take a decision. So that means your judgment. But having said that, whether we are talking about CTOs or any CXOs for that matter, I think it is important for them to know the market, their customers, as well as the business, right? When we say this, so we form some kind of intuition within ourselves, which will help us to take certain decisions in case of uncertainty or ambiguity. So many times we have to learn how to trust our intuition. When we start trusting our intuition, so even though data is there, but we feel that the situation out there in which you have to take a decision is different, then you can use your intuition, which is based on your past experience, your expertise, your knowledge of the business, your knowledge of the market, your knowledge of the customers, and your knowledge of the people. So this is one of the ways in which you can take a decision in uncertain and ambiguous environment.
I think there are two things we need to be very clear about. You know, in a data intense environment like the one we have existing around us right now, the first thing is that leaders need to become much better at sifting through the white noise and isolating the information they need so that they can quickly convert that into intelligence. Please remember, information is of very little use to man or beast. It's only when you apply thinking to that information and convert it into intelligence that it becomes actionable. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it's important for us to understand how we make decisions. So there are broadly two categories. The first category is the satisficer. This person will make a decision as soon as the minimum criteria for them or the situation is met. The second category is the maximizer. This person will wait for all the possible information to come together, which will make them believe that they are making the best possible decision in that situation. Now, Pranav, would you like to guess which one gets better results, the satisficer or the maximizer?
Oh, maybe maximizer.
Well, actually, there's a lot of research out there which shows you that most of the times, because maximizers are waiting for complete information to come in, they tend to delay decision making to a point where it becomes a problem. The satisficer generally tends to make a decision very quickly, the minute the minimum criteria are met. So what happens is, generally the satisficer also operates on a second very important premise. When they make a decision and action starts on that decision, if they find they are not moving in the right direction, they will quickly recalibrate and realign. It ties back to what I was talking about earlier about moving in short bursts so that you're constantly staying ahead of the curve. So I would say that in this situation, try to be a satisficer, go with the decision, knowing that all human beings are creative, intuitive, and intelligent. And when you see you're not moving in the right direction, you can quickly realign. You need to have that much of confidence in yourself and the people you're leading.
Sometimes being naive and innocent has a great advantage because you don't know many things and you just move and then you figure out some of the things in your journey. Because if you know everything in advance, then like you procrastinate or you delay, or maybe your risk appetite doesn't allow you to go in that particular journey. And so yeah, that's one of the thing which I think is going to be like really important when you just start small. You do not have a lot of information, and like the first case which you have discussed has more efficiency or success rate, right?
The satisficer. And actually, Pranav, since you brought the point up, not knowing is probably the biggest asset you can have. When you don't know, you tend to explore more. You are more curious, you are more creative,
Yeah.
you ask more questions, you listen more carefully. And that gives you one of the most fundamental things which human beings need, not just in this era, in every era. That's a learning mindset. So one of my biggest strengths is that I don't know too much about anything. So I tend to ask a lot of questions, right? And that gives me tremendous insights into new directions which can be taken.
So when you experiment a lot of things, you validate your assumptions, you create a process for yourself, and you have set up that, hey, in this situation, I'm going to respond like this, and this is going to be my process as a leader. So if such situation comes, and if your mind suggests that, okay, no, this is slightly different, and I should listen to my mind, what usually you follow? You follow your mind or your process?
I follow neither. I leave it to the person who is implementing it to take the decision they believe is the best for them. All I do is I discuss both sides of the decision with that person, and then I give them the confidence of knowing that no matter which way the cookie crumbles, we and I personally will stand behind them, and we will find a way to recalibrate, realign, and keep moving forward. I must tell you, there was a very interesting case. I was working with a company, the same group of C-level leaders for almost 24 months. I would meet them every month. And one of the guys mentioned that their CEO had a very interesting habit. When a decision had to be taken and the team was deadlocked and they had spent hours discussing this way or that way, he would say, guys, if you can't make up your mind, toss a coin. So one of them told me, he said, isn't that a strange way to make a decision? So I said, dude, you haven't understood his message. His message is that he doesn't care. You've discussed both ends of it. You cannot decide, which means the both options are very close to each other in pros and cons. And the reason he's saying toss a coin and move, because he knows two things. One, without action, there is nothing. Unless you act, you get no results. Secondly, he's very confident of you guys. He knows that no matter which way the coin lands, you guys will make it work. If not the first time, well, you will realign and learn to do it the second time. So that kind of resonates very deeply with me, because that's who I believe I am. And that's what I believe is a really good way to move forward. Keep moving, short bounds, be confident. You can realign, you can readjust, And unless you're moving, you will never know whether that path will get you where you wish to or it won't.
Actually, we should, as leaders, we should be vulnerable. It's okay if we don't know certain things. Have the courage to say that you don't know certain things and tell the team that let's all do it together. So when you say that, you also sort of earn the trust of the team, and the team will not only go with their mind, but also with their heart. So when they give the heart to you, so then there is a lot of chances for your success. I think that's the way to move forward. So two things here that emerges. One, of course, the leaders needs to have the courage to say that I don't know, and also ask for help. Second, be vulnerable. And when I say be vulnerable, as leaders, I think we have to role model what we are saying. We have to practice what we are saying. And we have to show it in action, so that the team also follows and the team also learns, and they also become curious to know, okay, so I can say no, so that means I can say yes to my leader, because the team is convinced that the leader is vulnerable. So there's nothing wrong in making a mistake, because we can always course correct and redirect us in the right direction. And actually, it's a journey. In my view, it's a journey, right? Leadership is a journey. The business is a journey. Organization is a journey. So many times we have spoken quite a lot on culture, and we can also course correct culture. There are certain ways and means of doing that, but you can course correct the culture, have your values in place, which helps you to make your decisions. And when I say values, the leaders' values and the organization values have to be aligned, and the behaviors will show their values, and which end up in action, and that leads to whatever we are destined for.
I'd just like to sum up by saying that, what we do in our company, and me as an individual, we focus on two things. We help people to strengthen three qualities: focus, flexibility, and discipline. These three are very important, because if you know how to stay focused, you will realize that life will not allow you to deliver your plan. So you will learn to become flexible. And discipline, if you have that, you don't need anything. You don't need motivation. You don't need anything if you have discipline. And the second, whether you're a leader or not a leader, there are four qualities you need to start nurturing very quickly if you want to succeed in any reality, not just this one. And those four qualities are empathy, emotional intelligence, cross-cultural awareness, and a learning mindset. All four are very critical in the reality we exist in, where it's literally a global marketplace. And everything is first about people. Products come when they come. So that's all I wanted to sum up with. And thank you so much. It's been a very enlightening conversation.
Hi, everyone. This is Sundar Visvanathan coming to you from Chennai, India. I am an executive leadership coach, mentor, professional speaker, and a certified board director. I, along with Mukul and Pranav, had an excellent discussion on the challenges of leading people in the complexities of digitalization. Please watch out and look forward to this panel discussion, which is going to give you a lot of tips for managing uncertainty and ambiguity. Bye. Take care till then.
It was an amazing discussion on leadership and digital transformation so far. And thanks Mukul and Sundar for being here and discussing some of these complex topics in the difficult times. Thank you. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you.